Hello and welcome to my presentation, The Case for Bilingual Education. I am Lloyd Lee. My presentation will contain 7 parts. Part 1, the existing ELLs in the U.S. society. Part 2, policies for ELLs. Part 3, LEP student identification and placement process. Part 4, definition of bilingual education program. Part 5, debates over bilingualism. Part 6, advantages of bilingual language learning. And finally, Part 7, instructional program models for ELLs. I will start first with the existing information about the ELLs in the U.S. society. Now we will look at the statistics of people who speak one or more languages at home rather than English. According to an analysis of the American Community Survey in 2011 by the Pew Research Center, a record of 37.6 million people at the age of 5 and older speak Spanish at home. Spanish is by far the most spoken non-English language in the US. The next most spoken non-English languages include Chinese, 2.8 million speakers, Hindi, Urdu, or other Indic languages, 2.2 million, French, 2.1 million, Tagalog, 1.7 million, Vietnamese, 1.4 million, and Korean, 1.1 million. According to another report by the National Center for Education Statistics in 2013, 21% of the total U.S. population spoke a language rather than English at home, and 5% of the total population spoke English with difficulty. Breaking down these statistics by races, we'll see that the Hispanic 69% of them speak Spanish at home, and 18% of the total Hispanic spoke English with difficulty. The Asian will have 64% speaking other language at home rather than English, and 17% of them spoke English with difficulty. So for the native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, 37% of them speak another language at home, and 7% of them have difficulty speaking English. Also apply to American Indians and Native Alaska, 16% of them speak another language at home, and 3% of them have difficulty speaking English. The whites, blacks, and bi races also have the difficulty speaking English with 1%. Along with the large number of the population with difficulty speaking English, the National Center for Education Statistics also reported that the percentage of public school students in the United States who were English language learners was 9.2% in the school year 2012-2013, higher than 8.7% in 2002-2003, and 9.1% in 2011 and 2012. In the year 2012-2013, 5 of the 6 states with the highest percentages of ELL students in their public schools were located in the West. The top states with ELLs include California, 22.8 million, New Mexico, 15.8 million, Nevada, 15.7 million, Texas, 15.1 million, Colorado, 12 million, and Alaska, 11.3 million. To tackle the language problem, there have been various policies stipulated targeted at English language learners for their poverty eradication and higher social mobility. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson began a war on poverty, and with the support of his Congress, he passed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESEA. In 1968, Senator Ralph the Bureau of Texas introduced a bill to provide funding to school districts to provide bilingual education for ELLs. This bill later became known as the 1968 Bilingual Education Act and became the federal law Title VII of the EDCI. The EDCI has been reauthorized 6 times in 1974, 1978, 1984, 1988, 1994, and 2001. Each time being reauthorized, the Bilingual Education Act went through changes. The goals of Title VII was clarified and defined in each reauthorization. No Child Left Behind was issued in 2001. Title VII of the Bilingual Education Act became Title III, Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. The No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 requires all states to identify English language learners, measure their English proficiency, and include these students in state testing programs that assess academic skills. More details of the definition of the limited English proficient students can be found in the General Provision Part A definition in the No Child Left Behind Act. This presentation briefly defines a student of limited English proficiency as a student whose primary language is other than English and whose English language skills are such that the student has difficulty performing ordinary classwork in English. Most states identify ELLs upon first enrollment in the school system. An initial home language survey is typically administered. For all children whose home language is not English, an assessment of English language proficiency is conducted using a state-approved standardized test. Each state decides its own standardized test. For Texas, the Texas Education Agency TEA establishes the rate levels and the scores on each test, which shall identify a student as limited English proficient in accordance with Texas Administrative Code TAC relating to testing and classification of students. For grades pre-kindergarten and grade 1, an approved oral language proficiency test will include listening and speaking in English and primary language for bilingual programs. For grade 2 to grade 12, it is an oral language proficiency test including listening and speaking in English and primary language for bilingual programs, and the reading and language arts sections of an English norm reference standardized achievement test. Upon the student's initial enrollment and at the end of each school year, the Language Proficiency Assessment Committee LPAC, consisting of a professional bilingual educator, a professional transitional language educator, a parent of a LEP student, and a campus administrator, will review all pertinent information on all students. Some of the functions of the LPAC include designating the language proficiency level of each LEP student in accordance with the guidelines related to the program content and design, designating the level of academic achievement of each LEP student, designating the initial instructional placement of each LEP student in the required program subject to the parental approval, facilitating the participation of LEP students in other special programs for which they are eligible provided by the district with state or federal funds, and classifying students as English proficient in accordance with the criteria described in testing and classification of students and recommending their exit from the bilingual program or English as a second language program. No later than the 10th day after the date of the student's classification as a student of limited English proficiency, the Language Proficiency Assessment Committee will give a written notice of the classification of the student to the parents. The notice must be in English and the parent's primary language. Although a district may be required to provide bilingual or ESL services, parents have the option to accept or deny the services offered by the district. However, the student will still be considered limited English proficiency and will participate in the same assessment program such as the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment System TELPAS like other LEP students until the student meets criteria for reclassification as non-limited English proficiency. To exit from a bilingual education or English as a second language program, a student may be classified as English proficient at the end of the school year, in which a student would be able to participate equally in a regular all-English instructional program. The determination will be based upon all of the following. First, TEA-approved tests that measure the extent to which the student has developed oral and written language proficiency and specific language skills in English. Second, satisfactory performance on the reading assessment instrument under the Texas Education Code, or a TEA-approved English Language Arts Assessment instrument administered in English, or a score at or above the 40th percentile on both the English reading and the English Language Arts section of a TEA-approved non-reference assessment instrument for a student who is enrolled in grade 1 or grade 2. And third, a TEA-approved criterion assessment reference written test when available and the results of a subjective teacher evaluation. Then, what does bilingual education mean? The term bilingual education program means an educational program for limited English proficient students that makes instruction use of both English and ineligible students' native language, enables eligible students to achieve English proficiency and academic mastery of subject matter content and higher order skills, including critical thinking, so as to meet appropriate grade promotion and graduation requirements, may develop the native language skills of eligible students, may include the participation of English proficient students if the program is designed to enable all enrolled students to become more proficient in English and a second language. There have been long debates over bilingual programs among politicians, researchers, and some educators. I would like to introduce some objection to and support for the bilingualism. There used to be the question whether bilingualism harms the children's intellectual development, confuses their mind, and retards their school achievement. George Thompson, a psychologist, in 1952 charged that there can be no doubt that the children reared in a bilingual environment is handicapped in his language roles. However, there has been much research supporting bilingualism. There is no cognitive cost in the development of bilingualism in children. Very possibly, bilingualism enhances children's thinking skills. In 1985, psychologist Anne Willig conducted her own study reanalyzing 23 out of 28 evaluations included in the Baker-de Cantor report. Her meta-analysis consistently produced small to moderate differences favoring bilingual education. Crawford 2004 confirmed proficiency in more than one language is a decided intellectual advantage. Bilingual programs are effective at increasing standardized test scores measured in English. I also would like to introduce some advantages when the young and the adult learners are involved in the bilingual education program. Young school-age children often have greater motivation, pressure, needs, and opportunities to develop second language proficiency than adults. Younger students receive a much greater amount of instructional time in the kindergarten to grade 12 educational systems to learn a language than the typical adult learner who may receive only a few hours of instructional a week. Younger learners may have a lower affective filter than older students, thus they may feel more comfortable using the new language. Bilingual children have better brain executive function that promote academic achievement. Older learners may be literate in their first language and have other knowledge and skills that can be readily transferred to a second language. Older learners may have learning strategies they developed in their first language that will help them as they learn a second language. Bilingual competence helps prevent Alzheimer, dementia, and delayed cognitive decline in senior people at least 4 years compared to the monolinguals. Of course, for those who are bilingual, they will have better job opportunities. So the jobs that they can work on include domestic and international trader, education sector like teachers and tutors, government jobs like bilingual officials and diplomats, customer services, hospitality, financial services, information technology, social services and social work, law enforcement, healthcare, medical services, and other international trade. Bilingual people also enjoy much more international entertainment. They can also enjoy traveling around the world, explore different cultures, and get more experiences around the world. And they can also enjoy the academic exchange. There are two big branches of language models for the eras: the bilingual models and the English medium models. In the bilingual models, one or more content areas is taught in the student's home language. These models include transitional bilingual education, developmental bilingual education, dual language bilingual immersion, heritage language. In the English medium models, on content area instruction will be in English, supplemented with primary language support as needed. The models include English as a second language pulled out, in-class ESL, shelter structured English immersion, newcomer programs, and submersion, or other name is sing, or swim. All bilingual program models use the student's home language in addition to English for instruction. These programs are most easily implemented in districts with a large number of students from the same background. Students in bilingual programs are grouped according to their first language, and teachers must be proficient in both English and the student's home language. Another popular format is for two teachers mainstream and first language to co-teach the standards-based curriculum. For the transitional bilingual or early access bilingual programs, they are designed to help children acquire the English skills required to succeed in an English-only mainstream classroom. These programs provide some initial instruction in the student's first language, primarily for the introduction of the reading, but also for clarification. This method is most common in the early elementary grades, with instruction in the first language usually phased out after 2 or 3 years in the program. For the maintenance bilingual or late access programs, they are also called developmental, very similar to early access programs, but they also continue for a longer period of time. Students remain in late access programs for several years, often throughout elementary school, and continue to receive 40% or more of their instruction in their first language, even when they have been reclassified as fluent English proficient. And the for two-way bilingual programs, or it's also called the dual language program. This program group English language learners from a single language background in the same classroom with native English speakers. Ideally, there is a nearly 50-50 balance between ELLs and native English speakers. Instruction is divided equally between English and other language. The students serve as native speaker role models for their peers. Two-way bilingual classes may be taught by a single teacher who is proficient in both languages, or by two teachers, one of whom is bilingual. Students remain in these programs throughout elementary school, and in some locations the programs exist in middle and high schools. English as a second language, or ESL programs, are more likely to be used in districts where students' population represents many different languages. ESL programs can accommodate students from different language backgrounds in the same class, and teachers do not need to be proficient in the home language or languages of the students. Among many of the bilingual programs, I would like to introduce the dual language program, or the two-way immersion language program. A growing number of these programs can be found in middle to high schools because they are taught by qualified bilingual teachers. The English speakers and English language learners spend most of the day together, and they will receive content area instruction in both languages. The dual language programs, or two-way dual language immersion programs, target at the English language learners and the English speaking students. These programs are available from kindergarten until grade 6. These programs are expected to help ELLs meet the same grade level content area standards as English fluent peers. This program are expected to help prepare the students to fulfill societal needs requiring citizens with bilingual skills. So English as a second language instruction will be available in 30 minutes or 60 minutes a day for the English language learners. So these programs are expected to help English speakers and English language learners reach or exceed grade level expectations and become biliterate with strong cross-cultural communication skills. In the dual language model 50-50, so 50% of the instruction will be conducted in the home language of the English language learner and 50% will be conducted in English. For the 90 and 10 model, so 90% will be conducted in the home language of the English learner and 10% will be conducted in English. The primary support will also be available upon the request of the students. So for the conclusion, there is a large population of English language learners in the US society. They should be given equal education opportunity so that they can succeed in their schooling and in their life in the future. There should be stronger cooperation between the district authority, school leaders, bilingual educators, parents, and community to give both English language learners and English speaking students the best opportunity to develop their language proficiency, especially their bilanguages, their academic development, and their intellectual growth. Bilingual education programs, especially the two-way language immersion programs, are strongly recommended to prepare the citizens with biliteracy, bicultural and cross-cultural communication skills. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for being with me. If you have any questions, please send to my email at loi.le@ttu.edu. Once again, thank you very much.